Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Collegiate Star League's Fall Hearthstone season. Brought to you by Blizzard and Twitch, of course. I'm Nomo Dogan, and casting with me tonight is Lucia.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this lovely Wednesday evening for the semifinals of our Hearthstone division. So, first up for you, we will have New York University versus Georgia Institute of Technology. And of course, most of these schools we've seen play throughout the season, and last week actually was the first time we got to see every game. So, it sort of puts these schools at a more even playing field. Usually you'll have like the high profile schools, where you watch the stream and you can see what they're playing, right? But in this case, everyone's last round of games were broadcasted. So if you're looking to see what kind of lineups, what kind of stuff your opponent likes to bring, then, you have a better sense of that. You get time to research. Also, unfortunately to note, this is probably finals week for a lot of people or close to it. So, have to balance that Hearthstone with their actual studies.
Yeah, for sure. Should see some interesting things going on tonight. Hopefully their minds aren't too swamped with their studies, like you said. But yeah, hopefully they can get through these matches, and we'll see who takes the win here tonight between the Violet Teachers and GT Hearthstone.
Yep. So first up, we have Ken Stay versus Brewski. Just hopping into game here now. To note, Ken Stay has been playing Rogue, I believe, in a couple games, and Brewski, on the other hand, he played Priest last week. Kangstay actually played Warrior last week, but
Yeah.
Brewski's games, he didn't list the classes on the CSL website, so if you wanted to research him, you'd have to dig a little deeper, look through the previous matches. I know we've definitely casted a lot of games by Georgia Tech, so it'll be there somewhere.
Right. Yeah, we have cast a lot of the games by these guys. They've got a really strong roster here. As of course, I mean, they've made it to semis. We'll see if they can make it further, perhaps even win the whole thing. But first, they're gonna have to make it through the Violet Teachers. And it seems like it's gonna be Paladin versus Paladin here in game one. It seems like a couple of mid-range decks. Maybe one of them has secrets incorporated, but as of right now, I don't really think so.
Yeah, it looks pretty standard, especially when you see the Zombie Chow. You're pretty sure that's not going to happen. Although an Avenged Zombie Chow would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that would be a pretty strong turn one play, especially if you had like a 2-drop to follow up, like a mini bot. But as we see here, no turn one for Ken Stay. Brewski can play his own Zombie Chow, and maybe he'll go with a coin Muster for Battle into a second Muster for Battle and just make all the 1/1s in the world. Might be a little weak because the other Paladin could have a Consecration, which could deal with everything. But on the here and now, I think he'll probably just play the Zombie Chow because of the chance of your opponent playing a 2-drop, or even if they just make a hero power, you want Zombie Chow to be able to kill it off.
Yeah, and he has the option to coin out the Cog Hammer next turn instead of mustering as well. So, if there's something like the Knife Juggler, as we can see here, then it's a very easy trade. He can either trade off the shield or likely just face tank it at that point.
Well, it seems like maybe he's trying to mind games his opponent here a little bit by taking his time on turn one. Maybe he's trying to imply that he has a 2-drop that he's deciding on, or something like that. But the Zombie Chow does come into play regardless, and Kentastay doesn't really have a great way to respond to this. You really don't want to play a Knife Juggler into a Zombie Chow, but it might be his only option.
I mean, thankfully he does have 2 Knife Jugglers, but you're right, it just doesn't feel good.
I mean, he could try to sandbag this for later, but then again, he would be hero powering this turn, hero powering next turn.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't have anything for the Argus, so that's like another hero power. Maybe you Knife Juggler make a 1/1 at that point, but that's going to cost a lot of tempo, in return, you could get some good value out of it because you don't just trade a knife juggler for a zombie chow, but tempo can be really important in these paladin mirrors. I
Definitely.
mean, it's not like they're too aggressive decks, but damage to your opponent, your level of board presence, all that stuff can really add up over the course of the game. Just like with a lot of other mid-range matchups.
Yeah,
It's
unless you're going full on consecration, in which case you're still kind of giving your opponent the upper hand, but you don't really want your opponent to just build up a board, right? You can't just say, well, it's okay, maybe you'll get a consecrate. It's like you really, especially as a paladin player, like you need board presence. You don't have, the crazy burst damage. So if you don't have board presence and you always let your opponent, start up the board ahead of you, then you're just never going to make it through.
right. Well, I think Brewski's gonna have a pretty solid trade that he'll take here. I don't think you want to coin out the cog hammer. Um, I think you'd rather save the coin for later in the game, especially when your next few turns are going to be pretty weak anyways. You want to have the coin to make up for the weakness early game for some extra speed later on. So I don't think coining or mustering is that great here, but it seems like Brewski disagrees. Goes with the coin cog hammer. It's especially awkward though, because now if you muster, you're going to lose your weapon. So this is an interesting choice. We'll see if it pays off.
That is true, but it gives him great presence at the moment. Otherwise he would have traded off his zombie chow. This way he has a weapon plus, the a divine shielded zombie chow, whereas the other way he just has a 1/1 left, right? So
hmm Yeah, that's true.
the
Um,
damage probably doesn't matter. It'll probably, when his zombie chow dies, it'll return all that damage back, but
mhm. And just ends up using his cog hammer to kill off the 1/1. That way
yeah.
he gets maximum charges on his Light's Justice from the muster for battle. He gets some damage in here with his zombie chow, and he's got a pretty strong board, I would say. Like for early game, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, definitely. Both these players, though, playing extremely slowly. They don't want to screw anything up. And I think once you set that precedence, right, for the first few turns, then your opponent's like, oh, I should do it as well. Whereas if you play quickly, your opponent sort of like does the same thing. They're like, okay, let's not wait around forever.
hmm Yeah, I like it though. Just taking your time, being patient. That way, in the later turns as well, you recognize that you have a lot of things you can do, like a lot of different plays you can make, but you want to make the best one every time. So especially in the early game, you want to remember, like, hey, this is a pretty big deal, this game right here. So you want to do everything you can to ensure that you win, or just ensure that you have the best chance. Kent
Yeah,
State.
this is bad.
I mean, it seems like Knife Jiggler make a 1/1 is
Right.
like the autopilot play. Uh, you don't really want a True Silver just a Divine Shield. Argus has nothing to buff up, so
I think that's
yeah,
the
it
way to
seems
go.
like mm,
At least he has the Sludge Belcher for next turn, so, it's going to at least take some of the 1/1s, maybe.
right. Um, Kent State
Yeah.
just
I think then, yeah, the Knife Juggler play. Ooh, he's thinking about going the True Silver. I don't know if I like this play. It just seems to be tanking. I mean, you don't technically take damage, but you're still not building a board. You just have a weapon up.
yeah. This is a lot to just take out the Zombie Chow. Um, I mean, if he did play the Knife Juggler in the hero power, it does die really easily, and he potentially misses out on some value, but
It
he's also
dies, but
missing
at
out on some
least,
value with True Silver.
yeah, you're at least doing something, right? Like your
Yeah.
opponent has to kill it up, which means some of his guys are gone. But this way, Brewski's still building up the board if he wants to. Unfortunately for
Mm.
him, he doesn't have a stickier minion, something like a piloted shredder. Obviously would be great. I guess there aren't that many 4 drops for a paladin. I mean, you have.
Well, Keeper of Ultimate now would actually be a pretty solid play here, I think, but he
Yeah, it
doesn't
depends
have
on
it.
if Brewski plays it, right? But Usually it's sort of more a response on turn 4. There's a lot of 4 mana things that paladins have, but it's like Blessing at Kings, which more mid-range decks don't really play. You have True Silver, you have Consecrate. Those are all kind of reactionary things. So fortunately, Brewski didn't really have a play there. Obviously, didn't want to just throw the Knife Juggler in because, if you get the Consecrate, the Knife is just going to die for 1 dagger. Not really
Right.
worth it. Also has the Muster for Battle, so, he's got a guaranteed 3 knives hit this turn if he wants it.
Hmm. Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that play from Brewski. Keeping the game pretty slow, even though he did coin out things earlier, he recognizes that Consecration could completely wreck his board, and he doesn't go all in with that. But now he's got another chance to go all in if he so desires. Like at this
Yep.
point, he could decide, hey, if my opponent had Consecration, would he have played it? Because Kenstay probably respects Quartermaster. I mean, at this point, most people
I
respect
think
Quartermaster
definitely. Yeah.
from these mid-range decks. So if Kensei had Consecration, would he have played it? I think that's what Brewski has got to consider right here when he figures out what he wants to do for this turn.
I think he must have, right? Because you just can't leave that many 1/1s lying around. Like, if he had Quartermaster, this is just painful.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it looks like Brewski is
just go
thinking
for it,
something
yeah.
along these lines.
He's just going for it.
Hopefully,
I mean, the alternative is that he could pick up the
forget.
Consecration this turn, right?
I'm
So,
just, oh, he didn't get everything in here. The animation on Sludge Belcher and Knife Juggler are taking a long time.
yeah,
Wow.
generally as Paladin, you don't run into that kind of issue. You usually just like play 1 or 2 things a turn, but unfortunately for Brewski there, taking a long time actually had an impact. And
Mhm.
so,
And this gives Kenstay a really good turn, I think. He can Knife Juggler Argus, and that way the ooze or the slime is guaranteed to trade off with the Knife Juggler, and he gets a buffed up Knife Juggler himself. I mean, it'll die to 1/1s, but it at least clears up a lot of Brewski's board.
it's a start anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, and Brewski doesn't really have a whole lot to follow up on this next turn. I mean, sure, Dr. Boom on turn 7, but turn 6 seems like it's going to be pretty empty. He might just go with a heal bot, but it's not what you really want to be doing.
Alright, so trades off the knife. I mean, at this point, Kangstay basically knows that Brewski doesn't have a Quartermaster, and Brewski knows that Kangstay didn't have a Consecrate.
Yeah. Yeah, I think both players could deduce things along those lines. A true silver champion drawn for Brewski. I think that's a pretty solid draw here to lead into Dr. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
You can trade 3/1/1s to clear up this knife juggler. Use your true silver to take down the Argus, along with making a 1/1.
Mm-hmm.
It sets up really nicely for Dr. Boom.
Yep. Just make sure he gets it in the right order. Ooh. Looks like he's gonna face tank it. Is he just gonna go face? Or he just accidentally took. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I think with that play, that makes sense.
yeah. At that point, you're like, okay, we're okay if you decide you want to keep your guys, right? But the thing that would not be okay is if he smacked his face into that and then traded into the Argus. So
Hmm. That
that's fine.
also kind of says to me that Brewski is thinking about drawing Quartermaster. He might play two. Well, I mean, like leaving all these 1/1s in
Hmm.
play, it's just giving him a way bigger payoff for when he does draw Quartermaster. Like especially if he has two in his deck, this makes a lot of sense.
I think it's fine too. Like, you want to keep your guys, right? Because they can consistently do damage. So, um, you know, generally it's like a 2-3 defender of Argus, whatever. And you have to trade, you're trading in more of your damage, right? Because you have to trade in 3 damage from your side to take out 2 damage from his side. So it's really not worth it. He's going to be trading, Kingsley's going to be trading in 1 at a time to get rid of the 1/1s anyways. So it works out for him that way.
Right. All right, we're going to see a trade into this Divine Shield. Coghammer played for Kent's of course. Something we've seen from both players so far. Usually a one-of in these lists, as they already have a few weapons between Musters for Battle, True Silver Champions, and the like. Consecration drawn now for Kent State. I don't even
Brewski.
know if it's a bad thing that he drew it so late because if he played it earlier, there wasn't even a quartermaster to back up those 1-1s. So
That's
it's
fair.
it's almost like since he didn't have the temptation to play it earlier, it paid off for him not drawing it. Like if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like if your opponent has that many 1-1s, well, specifically recruits, you have to clear them, right?
Right.
But it's like the game was nice to Kang State being like, you don't need a consecration right now, so we're not gonna give it to you. Just hang
Yeah.
on, it's okay.
Right. Well, you definitely want to incorporate Big Game Hunter into this turn, I think. Alder Peacekeeper you can save for something a little smaller. Big Game Hunter, of course, you want to kill something big with it. It seems to me like Coghammer into a Boombot and then just playing Big Game Hunter along with the hero power would be all right play. But this is a better play to take a firm control of the board. You do lose your consecration, but in the immediate state of things, it puts you in a better place.
Did he
Which
not attack that turn?
no, he saved his Coghammer charge.
Okay. Huh.
I think that's reasonable with two charges on it. I mean, the turn you play Tyrion, usually he doesn't die.
That's fair, but
Usually he'll get silenced or he'll get messed with, like his shield will get popped. But
he'll
I
get
mean,
messed with. Who messes with Tyrion? Come on.
yeah, I think it's very rare that he dies the turn right where you play him, especially when it's Paladin versus Paladin.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not worried about that, but it just seems you might as well just toss in that damage. At this point, like with Dr. Boom gone, I don't know that there's that many things except, the 1-1s that you have to start hitting.
hmm Well, with Truce overdrawn, I think there's a little more reason to attack now. So yeah, definitely makes sense. As well as a big game hunter, of course. Tyrion being in play is really really good for Kent State. Brewski doesn't really have an effective answer. I mean, you could Peacekeeper it to null it away for a while. Like Tyrion's got to pop his own Divine Shield, and then he's got to find a way to die before you get that Ashbringer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess the rest of this turn, you could Piloted Shredder along with Shielded Minibot. That takes 9 mana to play the Alder Peacekeeper as well. It
Yeah.
seems like a pretty solid play to me. You have Equality Consecration if you need to deal with anything afterwards.
Unfortunately, he can't, you know, like an abusive sergeant would be perfect, right? For the get rid of the divine shield, give him extra damage, and then BGH that.
Yeah.
Plus a Harrison. Do you have enough mana for that?
I mean,
Or an execute. I guess an execute. No, you can't execute because it's divine shield. Okay, so it would have to be BGH, abusive, and Harrison, and that's 10 mana exactly.
well, 9 mana. Abusive plus BGH is 4 plus Harrison, which is 5.
Oh, abusive is no, not
So,
abusive. Cruel task because you need to. Oh, I guess you don't need.
so it's
Never mind, never mind,
Paladin.
never mind. Okay, you don't need to kill the divine shield. That's true. So it's okay.
Mhm.
Not that anybody plays abusive, but
Not that anybody
it's
plays
it's a
Cruel
good idea.
Taskmaster in their
Yes,
Paladin deck either.
and their paladin decks, of course.
Hmm. But either way, looking at this board state, Kent State is probably feeling a bit concerned with his health being this low. He does have Lay on Hands and True Silver Champion. He's gonna throw the True Silver into play and deal with a few of these minions.
Another
I
roping
think he might have ran out of
situation.
time here. Okay, he just went face. I
Okay.
thought he was clearing up the Shredder.
Yeah.
Going face makes sense. Oh man, Harrison Jones. Can Brewski? I mean, he can definitely kill the Tyrion, but can he do all of this?
Well,
I
he
don't think he can
can.
do.
He can
Go ahead.
equality, right?
Mhm.
And then he won't be able to equality consecrate. Well, okay. So he pops the shield, and then he can. He just can't equality consecrate and Harrison, but he could equality kill Tyrion, and then um,
That might be a bit
Harrison.
greedy though. If he goes with that, because that's gonna leave a lot of damage on board. Eh. I
That's
guess it's
true.
not enough damage to be concerned with. And the seasonal greeting comes out from Brewski.
It
No
is
reply from
Paladin,
Kensuke.
yeah, so you're not too worried, but ooh, that's quite a lot of damage actually. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So,
Yeah,
Kinsley
usually you
has
don't
12
expect burst.
damage. Hmm.
But
It's
yeah,
just
that
so
is a lot.
expensive, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. Seems like Kensuke is going to have to go back to the board here. His best minion has been defeated. All right, consecration. He wants to make sure he doesn't die himself. He could hero power and Keeper of Ultimate just for the extra board presence.
Hmm.
I feel like he might need to because his opponent's got so many cards at this point. You can't really
Yeah, and
hold
next
back. Like next
turn,
turn's got to be lay on hands.
exactly. So he's got his play for next turn anyway, and by then he'll have more cards to decide what to do.
Right.
Mm.
But
Owl is
in
late to
terms
the
of,
party.
yeah, for sure. I mean, right after you've completely dealt with Tyrion. But he did have a Harrison, which made Tyrion like a good thing in a way to get to cycle
Hmm.
through a lot more of your deck. Um, but
He can play his own Tyrion at this point, although what's on board will be able to clear it.
yeah, if his opponent has a silence in hand or draws one, the Tyrion will mean certain death for Brewski. So I think if I'm Brewski here, I want to play a bit safer with like
Double heal
Healbot,
bot?
Consecration. Like, yeah, you've got two Healbots, two Consecrations. You can take your pick here is what you want to
You
do.
could just double heal bot.
Yeah, he
The
gets.
Alderman will take care of one of the heal bots, but uh, okay, he
Okay.
goes for the knife.
He seemed a bit conflicted about his decision there,
I
deciding to
think,
save the
yeah.
owl, which makes sense. I mean, you have plenty of healing. I don't think you have too much to be worried about. Like, not enough to where you want to silence this 33 and make it
Hmm.
into a 1/1. Save it just in case your opponent has a Sylvanas or maybe like a Kel'Thuzad or something along those lines. Ooh, Quartermaster along with Muster for Battle, drawn for Kenstay. That could be his ticket back into this game. Given he can't play it this turn, but he can stall out for a little bit here. The unfortunate thing is that Brewski has his Tyrion Forging ready to go, but I guess you have an Aldor Peacekeeper to deal with that.
Yeah, again, it's the sort of dealing with it.
Hmm.
You still have to deal with the Ashbringer that comes out.
Right. Maybe Kent State will draw his own Harrison, and it'll be like
Yeah, if
an
he runs
almost
a
complete mirror
Harrison.
match. Hmm.
Mm.
Depending on how similar these decks are, we could see
All right,
uh, very similar things being played, like
definitely.
along the lines of Tyrion being dealt with, and then Harrison dealing with the Ashbringer. Um,
I like this. He saw that, as long as your opponent only has two guys, right, then he'll at least have to tank 6 damage to the face or use a consecrate or something to deal with the Tyrion. Now,
hmm.
the I was thinking the other way, right? You could consecrate to take out the guys, but it's just not really worth it on a 3/2 and a 1/1. All right.
Yeah.
So actually, this works out nicely to take out Tyrion.
Yeah, it does leave the Ashbringer up, but if he does have a Harrison in his deck, I guess he's hoping to draw it in the next few turns, or he could use it on a weapon later on in the game. But it seems like he's going to save that muster for next turn. You want to play it on the same turn as Quartermaster. That way, everything's resistant to Consecration.
Definitely.
Going back over to Brewski's side, now that he has this powerful Ashbringer, I think he'll probably want to take out this Keeper of Oldman. I
Hmm.
still don't think you want to use Consecration. Want to be a little more patient with it. And he can fill the rest of his turn in with something like Healbot along with Shielded Minibot.
Yep. Sounds about right, and looks like that is what he's going for. Definitely values the, with the Healbot, he gets back to 23 health, so he's not worried. He's going to go ahead and kill off the Alderman first. Looks like he's going to play his Zombie Chow, not concerned about his opponent potentially getting that 5 health. So
Yeah.
Kingsley was able to deal with the Tyrion pretty well, but the issue being that he traded away his 1/1s, so he does get the, the maximum, if he wants it here, of hero power, muster, and then quartermaster, but he won't get it on his originally buffed guy, or being able to have any 1/1s that can attack immediately after getting quartermastered.
Yeah, but this does seem like the right play from Kent State. He's just gotta get on board somehow.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
this is the best way to do it. Unfortunately, Brewski has 2 consecrations, not just one. So he probably won't even have to use both of them here. He can make some trades with his minions, use 1 consecration, and have a backup for any other problems that might arise later on. Brewski's weapon is also much stronger than Kent State's at the moment. Springer compared to Light's Justice.
They're just
So
like
I'd
sort
say
of
that,
opposite.
yeah.
You can't get to a 1/5 on the Light's Justice, but there's what is it? The other paladin weapon, the one that gives your guys +1/+1.
Sword of Justice?
Yeah. I can see the picture in my head, but I couldn't remember the name. It had justice in it. It's a paladin, it's
Yeah.
probably a sword, I guess. So he could go for the
Yeah, I
double
mean, that all makes
consecrate.
sense.
Yeah. I think I would just go for the double consecrate here, just because if you have to start trading with your own guys, it gets a little messy, and you lose a lot of your guys as well, right? So again, it's
Yeah.
about, against the paladin, it's about having board control, and with that, Kenstei is down to 7 health, so I definitely think that was a pretty decent play.
I think this is also Brewski just saying, "Hey man, do something or I'm gonna kill you." Like he cleared everything on his board. He's kept his own board in place. He's got a Ash Springer with 1 charge left, and this is Ken Stay throwing out everything he's got. But Brewski still has lots of cards to work with, and it's looking really really rough for Ken Stay right now.
Yeah, I mean, Kenstei now has no more cards in his hand. Brewski picking up that shredder definitely helps a lot. The Aldor will do a little bit of work. Owl and
hmm
BGH, not really useful at the moment, but, if Kenstei manages to pick something up like a Dr. Boom, which would help him get back into the game, the BGH would definitely help. So I think at this point, you would still keep it.
Yeah, I might actually think about silencing my own owl instead of zombie chow
Oh,
instead of silencing the shielded
yeah.
minibot because I mean shielded minibot. I think I would rather deal 5 damage to my opponent instead of silence that
Yeah, that's actually pretty fair. Um,
because I don't think there's a way now where he can save his zombie chow from death. I mean, that kind of works out. If Kensei drew consecration, that would be a problem for Brewski.
mhm.
But he doesn't. He draws Sludge Belcher, which is annoying, but um,
It's doable,
still,
right?
yeah. I just don't think that Owl was. hmm, I mean, I don't think it was the greatest owl. Obviously, it did take out the shielded mini bot, but
Yeah, I think trading away one of his 1/1s would have been okay there, right? Like, is your 1/1 really gonna stick around and deal 5 damage, such that it's worth the trade of losing him,
yeah,
right? If you think of it that way, then
yeah. This Sludge Belcher actually has a chance of getting Kenstay back into this if he has some other big threats that can take over the game. Something that doesn't need its attack to work, like if he has a Ysera or something along those lines, that'll survive Big Game Hunter, and that Alder
yeah,
Peacekeeper doesn't matter.
exactly. Yeah, Ysera would be really nice.
Especially with that owl just getting used like that. Quartermaster
Oh,
drawn.
about time Quartermaster showed up.
Yeah, we do know both of Brewski's musters for battle are gone. So it seems like 2/1/1s might just be the best time to play this. He has just enough
Yeah,
build
he
slots to do
can.
it.
Right, he can use his shielded mini bot to kill off the first half, trade off his owl into the second half, and then he'll still have his guys. Actually, yeah, he could throw that in, and then the owl will trade with the 3/2, so he'll be able to save the guys. So that works out best. Pilot and Shredder, not the worst pickup. It is very sticky, but at this moment, with this much board presence from Brewski,
Doomsayer? Ooh.
it
I
okay.
mean,
It doesn't do anything, but still not the
yeah, I
best.
think he was looking for the Doomsayer there. That is going to be lethal damage for Brewski. Kent State does not have a way to stop it. And looks like Brewski with his Golden Paladin showing a non-Golden Paladin how it's done, huh?
Indeed, so that will be Brewski starting the series off 1-0 for Georgia Institute of Technology. Next up, we have Eclipse 880 versus Bloody Face. Now, where are we?
Yeah, so we know both Paladins are out of the way now. So that's a little bit I mean, I guess that's comforting, like knowing that your opponent doesn't have Secret Paladin or something like that waiting.
Honestly, we haven't seen Secret Paladin being played. I think people just don't like it as much for tournament. Mid-range Paladin just performs so well. Plus, getting a couple buffs with the new cards coming out. I think people
Right.
have just decided, even if they're going to play Secret Paladin, to play a more mid-range one. And people have started cutting secrets as well, realizing, even with Mysterious Challenge, you're just not worth that many slots in your in your deck, I mean, to have that.
hmm Yeah, I mean, they're both still pretty good decks, I say, but yeah, it does seem like a lot of people have shifted over to mid-range Paladin as well as any Fin can happen Paladin. We've seen that popping up recently
Oh
on
dear.
people's streams and getting to legend with it.
I feel like this is not the place to bring it, right? I mean, it is and it isn't. It's like, you want to surprise your opponent. Like, there are all these new cards that are out. People aren't going to expect it. But if you lose with a new deck, like, you just feel so bad. You're like, why didn't I just stick to something I knew how to play? It was a good deck. At the same time, like, that's what we as the audience and as casters are looking for, right? We're like, oh, hey, let's hope, something crazy happens, and we get to watch that happen.
Yeah, yeah, that would be pretty awesome. Looks like we are in game now between Eclipse 880 and Bloody Face. Bloody Face bringing out his trusty warrior. I think this is going to be Patron. We've seen this a good amount from him. I think he's really confident with this deck. And matching it up against Druid, I think that's a matchup that you are pretty happy with as Patron Warrior, as long as Druid doesn't go too Druid on you, where they start with Wild Growth, Double Innervate, Doctor Boom turn 3 kind of deal.
Yeah, I'm
That can be
pretty
pretty scary.
surprised actually, because it looks like from Eclipse's history, he also plays Warrior. So, if you expect Bloody Face to play Patron, Control Warrior would be perfect for that.
But I guess Eclipse also does have Golden Druid, as we can see here, so he's got to be pretty confident with that class as well.
Yeah, I mean, normally you'd expect, or at least I'd expect these players to sort of switch it up, right? Sort of to mind game your opponent. But honestly, like, if Bloody Face has a good chance of playing Patron, Control Warrior isn't that bad in general in the current meta, anyways. But if you get that matchup, right, like, you have to feel so good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gotten even worse for Patron, I think,
Exactly,
with
because
Warsong being out of the
you can't
equation.
have that burst damage, which is pretty much like the only way you're ever able to kill a Control Warrior. They're not worried about having too many guys on the board because, at best you make a giant frothing and they kill it with one of their guys on the board.
hmm Yeah, I think another thing, Like Bloody Face, I think has just played this deck for a long time. He's really confident that it's really, really strong. I mean, he already is legend this season as well. Uh, I mean, I guess there's a lot of legends at this point, but still pretty solid to be legend as of now.
Plus,
Not
studying
too
for
much to do
school.
in the early turns. Oh yeah, I mean that's true, but it seems like not too much to do. But patrons used to that. Uh, I think there's a good chance we'll see a Frothing Berserker next turn, just because that's what you do with Frothing Berserker a lot of the time nowadays, especially against a class like Druid.
Yep.
Although Piloted Shredder can just
Yeah,
deal with it
that's
really
gonna.
easily.
That's not happening anymore.
Yeah, Piloted Shredder would definitely just squash the Frothing Berserker like the bug that it is, and it would survive. So it
Exactly.
does not seem like a great play. Instead, Bloody Face looks like he's gonna coin out that Death Spite.
Yeah. He could slam and inner rage the shredder, but probably definitely a better idea to use the death spite.
Yeah. This also gives him the option where his opponent plays something like Druid of the Claw this turn, which is very likely, or a Sludge Belcher, anything like that. He can have Slam available to deal with it. A 1 health minion comes out of the Shredder. I'm sure Bloody Face is happy to see that. And also, Eclipse does not have a great play here. Double Wrath and a Swipe and a Keeper and a Wild Growth. I mean, this hand is not accomplishing a whole lot at the moment.
Yeah. Generally, at this point, you always want to be applying pressure, right? You don't need responses against patron, really. Um, they're going to be waiting to deal with what you have, and they're going to wait for later on to do some comboing. So, yeah, definitely not a good place to be for Eclipse. On the other hand, this allows Bloodyface to start setting things up. He can put down his Acolyte, he can enter Rage it if he wants to, and this poor Murloc. It's
Yeah.
probably one of the, if not the worst. I guess, is there anything worse you can get?
I mean, Novice Engineer, Captain's
Ah,
Parrot,
yes. Those are.
the assorted 1/1s.
You could
But
get a 1/1, yeah. But 2
I
1
think,
is still pretty bad.
yeah, especially against the Death Spite and one charge. But
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see the Frothing here because, I mean, I guess there's ways your opponent could deal with it, but if they don't, you have lots of free ways to charge it up. Okay, this is another nice option because you don't have to use your Death Spite. You still get the cycle off Acolyte. Whirlwind is really bad in this matchup. You deal with the 2/1, and he draws another Inner Age. Go ahead and cycle that on his Acolyte. I like that line of play. I think any line that saves your Death Spite there, as well as getting a draw off Acolyte, looked really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Because in this matchup, you really want to cash in that Death Spite uh, on bigger minions, but Eclipse still does not have bigger minions. At least now he can cycle a Wrath somewhat comfortably. If he really wants to, he can silence the Acolyte as well, which seems fine to me. Unless he really thinks he's going to draw a minion that he wants to play that costs 5 or less off of his Wrath.
It is possible. There's Druid of the Claw, Piloted Shredders. He did use one of his Shredders already. If he plays Shades, could find a Darnassus. That's kind of interesting, right? Because the way it works out is that by drawing an extra card with the Inner Rage, then it allows Druid to draw a card with Wrath, right? Because otherwise he would have to Wrath for 3 to kill it off, or, Keeper it. So it kind of works out that way. It's either like draw 3 cards and have your opponent draw 1, or draw 2 cards and not let your opponent draw.
Yeah, that's true. It's a bit sad having to hold on to this Keeper because your opponent has Death Spite in play. I mean, I would really consider just playing it, especially when you have combo in hand, but it might just set up an especially good turn. So I guess that's what Eclipse is scared of because Bloodyface did just draw a patron, and if he were to kill off the Keeper as well as make 2 patrons, that would just be really, really annoying for Eclipse. He could deal with it. He could deal with 2 patrons, but it would It would be bad. Oh, actually, Bloodyface has the second inner rage. He can make
Yeah.
four patrons.
He can do that. I like this play. It's a little bit slower, but he can potentially set up for more if he keeps his ghoul alive. And there's a chance that his frothing, just goes crazy next turn, right? Because if he gets it down this turn, all that whirlwind effect, he makes the patrons next turn, but if he trades in his ghoul, like, that frothing could be huge. I don't think it'd get to the point of lethal, but it'd be pretty scary.
right. Um, I mean, yeah, especially at this point with the druid not really playing anything. Like, has he played any minions yet? I can't remember.
He played a shredder.
Yeah, he played a shredder. Yeah, so you've got to be feeling really good as Bloody Face right now because like the druid did not do druid things. He's just had a pretty rough hand. I mean, he does have combo. That's cool and all, but is it going to be enough? Like Bloody Face can make a really strong board this next turn if he wants to. I don't know if he will because he might want to save the Death Spite for longer, but um, I think there's a reasonable chance.
He picked
Now
up
he can
another
make,
frothing. Oh man, this is full board. He picked up that second
yeah.
whirlwind.
Yeah, I think that about settles it. I mean, he might save the weapon actually. He could just make four
Yeah.
and hold the weapon still, which is a solid option seeing as he has two executes, a slam, a frothing, multiple things that benefit off Death Spite being left in play.
Yeah.
So I think there's a good chance we'll see him just hold the weapon.
He also, you know, got a swipe out, and he knows both wraths are used. So this is actually really complicated for Eclipse to deal with.
Yeah. Bloodyface really considering whether or not he wants to make six patrons or just stick with the four. Hmm. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely a tough decision. Like
I
you
mean,
get a
this
faster
way.
clock if you make six, but opts to keep four. Let's see how Eclipse responds to this.
Yeah, if he combos, he can kill off
He can, yeah, he can kill everything because,
everything. But that is, part of your win condition.
yeah. I mean, Bloodyface is like sad and happy about this. I think you do lose all of your patrons there, and he doesn't really have a whole lot of follow up right now. Maybe these slams will get him somewhere next turn if his opponent actually starts playing things. But he's happy to see one copy of combo go away.
He could slam his own frothing, but that would make it die to a keeper, and seeing that many cards being kept, probably suspect that could be the case.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah. I don't think he needs the card draw that badly that he, would slam his own frothing.
Right. Lotheb. Drawn for Eclipse. Hmm.
Druid of the Claw plus Lotheb looks good.
Yeah, you could even charge Druid of the Claw
Yeah.
if you're feeling spicy. Take out that frothing berserker. Hmm. If you put Druid of the Claw in taunt form, then Death Spite plus a Cruel Taskmaster could kill it. Uh, I mean, that's worst case scenario, I guess. Death Spite, Cruel Taskmaster, and then execute for six to finish off the Lotheb. And then you have this big frothing berserker to worry about. Could also just opt for Emperor Tharison plus a silence from Keeper of the Grove. That seems like a relatively safe play.
Yeah. Alright, looks like he's going for the charge play.
Yeah, I can get behind this line of play. And Bloodyface not drawing a whole lot of action. Wow, it seems like the tables have turned. Eclipse is drawing things to do, and Bloodyface is he doesn't have a whole lot going on now. I mean, once he gets these slams cycled, he'll probably find some more plays to make. But as for now, he's just gotta hold off against Druid.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully he has seen combo.
Looks like we lost Nemo, so
Yeah, I just got kicked out. Let me see if I can get back in the game.
specking now. So the cards are going to be
All right, I'm back in.
alright, that works. There we
Sometimes,
go.
yeah, sometimes just not allowed to watch or something. I don't
Yeah,
know what it is.
sometimes you're standing around the tavern table and a drunk guy comes by and knocks his beer into you, and all that sort of thing, right?
Wow, just a slam
Huh.
and finish the turn from
He
Bloody
leaves the
Face. Really,
Lothab.
really hanging on to this death spite. I'm sure he would be so sad to see a Harrison pop up and just kill it, but that's not the case. Harrison not so popular in Druid decks these days.
Well, hey, if you're teching specifically for Bloody Face, I think it's fair to toss in a Harrison. We've just seen him play Warrior. He did play Hunter last week, so between Hunter and Warrior, right? Like, Harrison's pretty good
Yeah,
value either way.
yeah,
And
Harrison can
Druid,
definitely get
yeah.
some things done in those matchups.
Druid's definitely a class that can afford to throw in a Harrison without, completely screwing up your deck. So
Right.
it's not one of those classes where, you really have to make sure your opponent's playing a weapon class for it, to be somewhat acceptable.
Hmm. All right, I like this play from Eclipse. He's just using all his mana, producing his best board, gets that Theracin out. It's gonna give him some discounts, of course. And wonder if Bloodyface is feeling at all concerned here that his opponent has drawn either like just a Savage Roar or the complete second combo.
So he could play Armor Smith, equip the War Axe, and well, I guess he might as well just hit into the um the keeper at this point. There's no reason to do anything fancy.
Yeah,
And
I
then
think he
has the
might
double
cycle Slam
executes. Yeah.
just to find some other things to do. Yeah, he might leave Keeper in play here and save and execute. Like if he leaves it at 1 health versus Armor Smith. Or he could still just hit the keeper and execute the other two guys. Those
Yeah.
are like his only removal
Hmm.
spells, though. He might just want to save one. And he has seen one combo. Like,
It is hard to say, right? Because yeah, like you've seen one combo. Um,
and it's
this
just a two
way,
one.
yeah, but this way it doesn't really it doesn't take him out of combo range.
Yeah, but I think I definitely respect his line of play because having seen one combo, I don't think it's that reasonable to play around a second one, especially when your opponent only has 3 cards and they're not that far into their deck. I mean, it's reasonable to assume he has one piece of the combo, but if he has both, it seems like Bloody Face is okay with just letting him have the win there, which like you got to take risks at the bigger payoff in the long run. So I like that line of play.
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about combo. I think it's more just whether you save that execute versus taking 5 damage to the face.
Hmm. I mean, seems like it'll work out here if he decides to execute the Ancient Allure.
The other thing too is with the slam, he would have been able to slam and then war axe a 5/5.
Hmm. But then he might have not drawn something he would have needed. Like, say, if Dr. Boom switched place with the Death Spite he just drew,
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't, like, that kind of thing. He might not have had it, so I like cycling the Slam earlier on. Uh, and, like, his next draw, he wouldn't have had if he. I mean, I guess he would now. Like, if he slammed that Ancient of Lore when he saw it. But, yeah, I mean, can't really know those things. But, Eclipse
Eclipse.
with. Yeah, he has an Azure Drake here, which you could play.
Yeah, he had a lot of responses early on, but now, none of those are a BGH, unfortunately. Generally, when you have, like, that Keeper of the Grove that, sits in your hand forever, or the Force of Nature, but not a BGH, so Bloody Face will be really happy to see that. Alright, first Boombot. Alright, it's alright. Deals 2 damage, and since Eclipse had to face tank it, that sort of counts as pretty much the average, right? The average is 2.5, but he had to face tank it, so
Yeah.
we'll give it an average result. Ooh. Is he going to play that Shade and risk
That's
it dying to the Boombot?
pretty dangerous.
Looks
Poor
like
Crown
a,
Elite.
oh, wow. Looks like a pretty nice trade there. He can either face tank it, which looks like what he's gonna do. I'd say Bloody Face is pretty fearless, although, given that his name is Bloody Face, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, he's used to this, just
Yeah.
like um
But to be fair, right, the problem would be if that was the only nice way to be able to kill off the Shade. If he ran his Cork and Elite into the Outer Drake, it would just die. So the Boombot would have nowhere to trigger.
yeah. I mean, I think Bloody Face just playing Tears out tier. I think he is definitely feeling scared at this point. If that Shade had not have died, he would have lost the game this turn because Eclipse has Force of Nature plus Drew the Claw for a
Yep.
total of 10 damage. Plus he could innervate Hero Power for 11, so that'd be 1 overkill with a 3/3 Shade. Um, but now he is 2 damage off lethal, and Bloody Face, he doesn't have lethal on board, but there's a very, very good chance he could draw something like Ramash, Cruel Taskmaster, um,
He just needs
something like
one
that.
damage. Both Inner Ragers have been used.
Hmm.
Let's
Well, if
see.
Eclipse Hero Powers, I guess he'll need 2, but
Yeah.
1 and 2 damage are pretty similar with this deck. I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think, yeah, I think they're about the same. Ooh,
Ooh. Burning a lot to get rid of Bloody Faces. Bloody Face feels really good here. Like, once you see that force, right, there's not really a lot of chance of things just happening and killing you off.
yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that play, actually. I think maybe Eclipse was playing too scared there. Um,
And the turn
because,
before, I would say if he threw down the Druid of the Claw instead of the Shade, right? Like, you'd have to innervate it out, but really, what are you saving innervate for at this point anyway?
yeah. Yeah, hmm.
And
Some
that Shade
interesting
just
things
died for
going on here.
free. And it wasn't even like, Bloody Face had to use something from hand. It was like you could see exactly on board just the cleanest way to take out that Shade. It was like a 50-50 plus a 75% chance. So 3 out of 8. 3 out of 8 chance to kill off the Shade, which is pretty high, I would say, just throwing down the Druid the Claw, especially with that much damage in hand, like having the Keeper. He didn't draw the swipe yet, but the Force of Nature. Plus his Druid of the Claw probably stay alive or, require like a weapon hit. So
Hmm.
I think it would have been a lot better. But at this
Yeah.
point, it looks like he's still doing quite well.
Right. I mean, Eclipse had that really rough start, but it seems like he's kind of pulled things back together here. Bloodyface only having that Grim Patron, and he was really debating whether or not to play it. He opted not to, which, I think either way, it makes sense. Like, there's arguments for why you should or why you shouldn't play it. Battle Age Drone, he's going to need something good here. Maybe he's deciding whether or not to play the Battle Rage first if he has other ways to draw, other ways to cycle in his deck, but... Alright, let's see. 2 draws here for Bloodyface.
With only 1 mana left after that, though. Ooh, nice. Picks up a Ghoul.
Yeah, Unstable
That's
Ghoul.
really good.
Unfortunately, Eclipse does have Keeper of the Grove.
Yeah.
And that's going to spell lethal damage for him along with the Savage Roar. Death is chosen from Bloodyface. Wow. The Druid came back that game.
Refuses to
Eclipse
go down.
comes back.
It's like, no, I am going to suicide. You are not allowed to kill me.
Yeah,
So
wow.
good start to the series. Some pretty long games happening, but it's not like we have like a Resident Sleeper Control Warrior game mirror matchup, right? It's like these are pretty interesting matchups. Looks like we have Swole Legend versus Zibri coming up. The series
Hmm.
is tied at 1-1. So definitely the kind of start we'd like to see here.
Yeah. We'll see if it makes it to be a full 5 game series or if one team gets a 2-0 along these next couple of games. Um, but yeah, now we have Druid out of the way for the Violet Teachers from New York University and Warrior out of the way from Georgia Tech. Still a bunch of solid decks, top tier decks that can be played from either side. We
So
also know that both Paladins have been played.
yeah, for Swole Legend, it looks like he is a Warlock player. And
Hmm.
for
Warlock, that's a great class right now.
yeah, for
So many
Zabri,
different ways you can play it.
Zabri actually is a Warlock player as well, so we might see a mirror matchup here.
Oh yeah, that's
Although,
definitely possible. I mean, there's Reno decks. There's like the heavy Reno decks, with like a lot of stuff on the top end, playing
mhm,
both Fugan and Stalag, as well as like Twisting Nether.
mhm.
There's some Reno decks that play more early game removal, even things like Doomsayer, Explosive Sheep, those kind of cards.
Oh,
Um, and like there's the Hobgoblin decks, which have Murloc Tiny Fin along with the Wisp. They're playing like 3 actual Wisps in their deck,
oh boy.
except that Tiny Fins count as Murlocs. And Hobgoblins, of course, along with Reliquary Seekers, which can be buffed into 5/5s.
Yeah, but waiting for that to happen is just so frustrating. Were you here that game, or was I casting with someone else?
I don't think I remember a game like that.
Okay, where it was just there were two Reliquary Seekers in the Warlock's hand, but there was just no way of it being able to proc. And then they just
Hmm.
played them by themselves, and it was very sad.
Yeah, that is a sad thing for sure, but that's the risk reward of that card that you have to take. Players are in game now. Looks like we have Swole Legend on Warlock versus Zebris on Druid. Zebris, I don't know. So yeah, Warlock getting taken from New York now, as they're playing it right here, and that's going to be both Druids out of the way after this game. So I guess Georgia Tech will still have their Warlock available after this. Seems like New York University is going to have to make this one count, um, and hopefully pull out the win here.
Now, mid-range Druid generally does pretty good against handlock, right?
I think so, yeah, especially with double combo.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
So
there's
I
a good
think,
chance this is Reno.
um, hmm. How do you feel
I
that does
mean,
against Reno?
well, it really, really depends. If the Druid player has a strong start, I mean, they can run over Reno just like they can any other
Hmm.
deck before they even get the chance to play Reno.
A
Um,
leper gnome, though.
this could also be Malilock. Oh yeah, okay, so this is aggro Druid, I guess.
A
With a bit of a mid-range theme, it looks
bronze
like.
beard
Yeah.
for Swole Legend, and actually, that combos with the Twilight Drake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can make a
So,
huge Twilight Drake with that card.
this is interesting.
But Druid has silences, so no matter how big you make
Yeah.
the Drake, it'll still just go back to 1 health, assuming it gets silenced.
Well, you could silence the Brawn as well.
Hmm. But
Cancer Druid. It.
uh,
I like this against Reno. Like, I like anything aggressive against Reno because you kind of have to draw into your options, right?
yeah.
And you don't have as many. You can only run one copy of things, so you don't get the double molten, threat. You don't get the. Um, and it's not just the fact that you only have one molten, it's the fact that it's much less likely for you to even draw one early on. So this could actually work out okay. I'm wondering if Zabri chose this deck specifically, right? Because they know that Swole Legend plays Warlock a lot, And with the new Reno deck, like you said, like double combo isn't as effective if your opponent gets, just plays the Reno and heals back up. So
Yeah.
this should be
It's
interesting.
a
I'm
it's a
curious to see how it does.
it's a big question as to whether or not the Reno deck, yeah, draws to the Reno. I mean, you can tap a lot, but Reno is just one card, and there's always a fair chance every game that it's in like the bottom 5 cards of your deck. So it really, really depends where the Reno is and whether or not you draw it. Um, so let's see. Zebris doesn't really have a whole lot here. I mean, you could innervate a piloted shredder, but then like you're kind of locking yourself into coin keeper. I mean, not really. You could just hero power next turn, but as a druid player, usually you want to play a threat followed by another threat followed by another threat. You don't really want to skip a turn because it's somewhat inefficient a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think
But
getting out the shredder is definitely. You want to apply pressure, right? Especially, if it's a Reno deck.
yeah,
The nice thing here
but
is that the Brawn is going to die very easily to the Shredder. So I think Soul Legend has to go for the Dark Bomb here.
yeah, you could Dark Bomb and Zombie Chow. Seems like a fine line of play to me. Um, I mean, hopefully nothing too crazy comes out of the Shredder.
It's not really at a point in the game where, a Shredder makes or breaks anything either, so. Alright. Oh, a Mech Warper. That is not a Fell Reaver from Zabri. If he was running the Fell Reaver version, then, that Mech Warper would allow him to coin out the Fell Reaver and would make Swole Legend feel pretty angry, I would say. I'd be pretty pissed off if that happened, it's like they pick up something and the only way they were able to play it is because you got a Mech Warper.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this deck doesn't have any mechs as far as I know, but who knows? It could be a random one in there somewhere. Um, Interesting turn for Swole Legend here. Could either Twilight Drake or Implosion. Implosion is a little bit weak to swipe, though. But then again, Twilight Drake is kind of weak to Keeper of the Grove. Potted Shredder seems somewhere in the middle, or you could
Yeah.
just Demon Wrath to guarantee that both of these things die.
Yeah, Demon Wrath just doesn't really use up the mana efficiently. I think Shredder's a good way to go. You see two guys on the other side that are 2-1, so it's not the most efficient trade if Zabri wants to take it.
Swole Legend's gotta be feeling somewhat scared right now, though. Like, he doesn't really have a heal yet. I mean, I think he wants to draw Antique Healbot or Reno Jackson really, really soon because Zebris is going to start packing on the damage over these next few turns.
Yeah, he still
And also,
has
we can
coin.
see his combo.
Yep. Has coin and combo, although I wouldn't mind.
Sometimes Savage Roar can just take the game out of nowhere as well. Like, just a Savage Roar, you don't even need the full combo. Especially against these Handlock, or excuse me, Reno decks where they're tapping a lot before they heal.
Yeah. This is a rough turn. For sure, though.
I mean, you could coin out Druid of the Claw and Taunt one
Yeah,
and
I
hope
think
it
swipe
lives
is
up.
okay. Like, you don't expect your opponent to have implosion, so. Ooh. Hey. 4-1 popping out,
Yeah.
but Zabri knows like he's not the one worried about his health, and it looks like Soul Legend.
Whoa, is that a faceless manipulator
It
Soul Legend
is.
just drew? Wow, I haven't seen that
It
card in
is.
so long.
So we've got turn 7 Brawn into Twilight Drake, and then turn 8 Faceless onto the Drake, right?
I mean,
Except the
except,
Keeper is gonna ruin the
yeah,
party, but you
that's what I was about
know,
to say.
yeah.
Oh man. Yes, I'm gonna have two massive Twilight Drakes, and then your dreams get crushed by Keeper of the Grove. I've experienced that so many times. Keeper of the Grove is definitely a crusher of dreams kind of card.
Okay, there we go. There is the Dark Peddler, so he'll get 2 spells here. Pretty decent value, although I think it just like killed the spectator mode. Looks like he picks up an Ardent Squire and Mortal Coil.
Hmm.
Doesn't have the mana to play the Mortal Coil, unfortunately, but still a good pickup. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see what cards he had. Generally, you get to see it, but I guess the double Battle Cry was not what the spectator client was expecting.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time for Zebras to pick up the pace a little bit and start charging these Druid of the Claws. Just pack on the damage and hope your opponent doesn't have Reno. Because I think if your opponent has Reno, you probably can't win anyway. So I would like to see him go full aggro mode now.
I don't know that I'd say he can't win anyway, but like his opponent's at 17 health, right? And he's not he has combo. So it looks like he's just gonna trade off instead.
Yeah, I like the trade with Bran because, obviously it could buff a Drake, but you have a
You
silence
never
anyway.
know
So
what happens, right? Like if he plays the Bran, it's like something else weird could be in his deck, and you're like, oh, right. Oh, that happens twice? What?
yeah, yeah, I think this play is also good as well because you do get to play your combo one turn earlier with the coin here. So I think Zebras doesn't need to fully commit the damage to face. He can just wait it out a little bit and put his opponent in that position where they're not sure whether or not they need to play Reno. Because if he gets the Reno out before he plays combo, then he has the combo for after, of course.
Right.
But if his opponent doesn't play Reno because he hopes he doesn't have combo, he has it. So, yeah.
All right, a very daring. Oh,
Life tap. I mean,
yeah.
it makes sense to me because, like, you need a heal. So you gotta take some damage to gain some health. You gotta spend some money to make some money.
It's not the war. It's like if these classes were like careers, right? It's like the warlock is the finance guy. He
Mhm.
like drains his own blood to I don't know. But
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
that's the
I
motto there.
thought I thought it was that was like kind of a generic saying, but
No, but I'm just saying like now we're gonna find a career for each of these. It's like if a
yeah.
warlock was brought to today's world, what would he do?
Mhm. Um, I'm not sure. I mean,
Oh,
not
the
sure how to answer this.
faceless. Yeah, the faceless kind of works out here. I don't think you're gonna be guaranteed to get better value. You could get something like a Dr. Boom, but that could be BGH'd, and that's not necessarily gonna show up either. And this is at least a taunt as well, so I think this is a decent faceless value. Should just go for it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Faceless will get that much better. So, and you're running out of time here. Like, not just the rope, but in terms of damage that the druid can bring forth.
Yep, trades those in. So you don't want to get that swiped. You'll feel pretty. Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, he does have a Fell Reaver, so if he picked that up early in the game when he had that Mech Warper out, That would have been so cool.
The 4 mana Fel Reaver.
I'm
Yeah, that would
so
have been.
mad. Yeah, and
Oh,
he picked
good.
it up. It was what, a turn 3? So, and he had the coin left still. It would have been amazing. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
I
would
can't
be
believe I didn't
quite
think
the
of Fel
way.
Reaver.
That'd be quite the way to lose the game. It's like, yeah, my opponent had a Shredder, a Mech Warper came out of it, and then he coined a Fel Reaver against me. Hmm.
Seems like Zebra's going back and forth on whether or not to play this Keeper of the Grove. I mean, you've got combo next turn. You just want to ensure that things are ready to go. You also
Oh,
are
nice.
afraid of Reno, but like you don't really have anywhere else to attack except face. And it seems like Soul Legend either has to man up and like play Twilight Drake and Argus and hope he doesn't die, or man up, tap, and draw Reno. And then I think he barely survives, depending on where knives go. Because combo is
Right.
14, Druid of the Claw would be 6, that's 20, plus Knife Juggler, that's 25, Keeper of the Grove would be 29, and then depending on where knives go, it
So
just
one
takes
just
one
need,
knife to
yeah.
face. And that's if he draws Reno. So,
I mean, he does have a Defender as well as the Shadow Flame, but Shadow Flame feels bad. You'd have to. Oh yeah, there is that option.
yeah, you could attack Shadow Flame and then Defender your Argent Squire, and then you survive combo, I believe.
I don't know if I like the Demon Wrath because it kills off his guys well, although it's not taunted, but
Yeah, now he's dead to
this
combo.
is, yeah, I think that was pretty awkward.
Yeah, I think he might have. Yeah, I think it was probably just a small misplay on his part,
Yeah, I don't think that
miscalculation.
Demon Wrath really needed to be in there. If he, it's very hard.
Like he could have Shadow Flamed, and then he would have survived combo with a taunted Argent Squire. But I guess he might have just missed that play. I mean, I think he was really just hoping he drew Reno, but
Yeah, at
yeah,
this point
unfortunately,
though,
didn't work out.
it's rough. But with that, the Druid from Zabri taking out Swole Legend, and I think potentially like a very specific pick for this matchup. So looks like it worked out for Georgia. And next up we have Thunderhorn versus Shrippers, who has
Hmm.
an awesome name, I would have to say. Unfortunately, his name in game is a lot less spectacular. It's just that guy. It's like you cannot get more anticlimactic from a name like Shrippers down to
Yeah.
just that guy.
Hmm. I mean, I guess so. But I would also like to say I think my math might have been a little off. I think he could have traded something earlier. Like if he did tap and draw Reno, I think he would have had a better chance of surviving.
Oh, he also
Um,
could have kept his Druid of the Claw alive if he Argused first, right? His Argus would be at a 2-1, but, who cares about that?
mhm.
Because it was a
Yeah.
4-2 and then it died, so if he Argused it, that would have stayed up as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
maybe
don't.
that's
Yeah, I don't think it would have been enough because he could have just phase tank it because he was down to 11 damage, right?
mm,
So it
that might
wouldn't
have
have
been the
helped.
miscalculation though, like not playing Argus first. But
I don't think it
oh
would have
well, that
helped. Yeah, but in any case, moving on to the next game.
mm. That also puts both druids that were played today uh as a win. So Druid doing well today.
Yeah, Druid doing Druid things.
Hmm.
Alright, so next game up here looks like we've got Thunderhorn on Warrior versus a Hunter from Shrippers. Just that guy. So let's take a look here. Looks like Thunderhorn has been playing Shaman throughout the season. Pretty cool stuff. Um, let's see here. And on the other side with Shrippers, it looks like he's been playing Druid all season. So,
Hmm. Druid definitely strong as we've just seen in these games, but Hunter versus Warrior, probably not the matchup that Shrippers was looking for. Especially since this seems like Control Warrior. I already saw Justicar in Thunderhorn's hand.
is Hunter good against Shaman?
Usually yes.
So maybe he was
Um,
going for that because Thunderhorn has been playing Shaman all season.
mm,
So he might have. And, his original class was Druid, which was already played by the Warrior. Was it the Warrior player? Who was. Let's see. We had. No, the Warlock player. Right, so the Warlock player played Druid to counter the Warlock. So now he was thinking of playing Hunter to counteract the warrior, the potential Shaman, but it looks like Thunderhorn's going to play Control Warrior probably here. So we'll have to see how this works out. It looks to at least be mid-range, so looks like everything worked out after all for just that guy.
Ooh, what in the world? Sarah and a Kezan Mystic revealed. Wow, interesting things so far.
Yeah, that's surprising because if he was, aiming for a Shaman, obviously the Kezan wouldn't really make it in there.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Also, another thing to note is that, Shripper is bringing out Hunter here. Maybe he's just hoping for a free win or something, but they also have Warlock left, I believe, on the side of Georgia Tech. So if this game doesn't go so well, they have Warlock to bring out any of those strong, different builds that you can make with Warlock. So I guess depending on what they're afraid of, they could bring out uh, the right Warlock deck, depending on the circumstances. So I think that's a nice thing to have left over.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing, like, you want to have those options, so there's sort of a balance. You want to get the classes that do generally well out first, and then save. Like Warlock is a really good class to save, right? Because you get Zoo and you get Handlock, and if you save some of your better players for the end, then they can adjust accordingly and be able to play both decks well. Other things you also want to play sort of from to the middle to late stage would be something like a Freeze Mage, where, you want to make sure the more aggressive decks kind of get out of the way that you don't want to deal with, and then you can decide whether you want to play it based on the remaining matchups.
All right, a Huffer, a good result for Schwippers. Either Huffer or Leok would have been satisfactory there to take out the Armor Smith. Yeah, just going base. He's got a Houndmaster to follow up next turn, along with the old Knife Juggler and Leash combo, which isn't so great in this matchup, but could do that if he chooses to. And a Savannah High main on turn 6. I think Schwippers has got to be happy with this curve through this game. I mean, sure, it would have been nice to win the Joust off King's Elect, but in this matchup, very unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
Although the Ysera probably tells him that, hey man, this is definitely Control Warrior, so watch out. So he's got to realize that. I think that it's not control, or it's not Patron, but it's definitely Control. All right, a somewhat efficient clear here from Thunderhorn, getting everything off the board. Houndmaster is going to be really sad now, as it's going to be a long time before it'll be able to hit anything. But Piloted Shredder is a fantastic draw for that turn, as otherwise he might have just played a 4-3 Houndmaster or a 3-2 Knife Juggler.
Yeah. Would have been pretty sad, but Piloted Shredder saves the day. Or, see, for the longest time I didn't realize this, that a Piloted Shredder is because there's, once you kill the Shredder, there's the guy that's piloting the Shredder inside.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, it's not really, thank God the Piloted Shredder came. I guess it's like, oh, thank God the driver, the piloted Shredder came along and booted it up.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's especially great when you have a piloted sky golem where a piloted shredder is piloting the piloted sky golem. And then like I wish there was something with pilot in its name as a teardrop so that it could be like piloting the
Yeah.
piloted shredder, which was
A haunted
piloting.
creeper should just be like a spider piloter. It's like a piloted spider. Piloted
Yeah, I
creeper.
mean,
It's like, why is it
if it
haunted? No, it's just piloted by little
if it came out in
spiders.
GVG, maybe instead of Dex
It's a
Ramas,
yeah, it's
because
like a
everything in
mechanical
Dex Ramas is
spider.
scary.
It should be a mech, and it would be a spider, and it would be a mechanical piloted spider. Totally works out.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, sure. But anyways, we've got Thunderhorn in his turn five, facing down a knife juggler and a damaged piloted shredder, not to be confused with a damaged golem from a harvest golem. But yeah, a few options here for Thunderhorn. Could go with the Loatheb or Fiery War Axe plus Acolyte of Pain, something along those lines. I personally like the Fiery War Axe to kill the Knife Juggler off here and now. Don't want to deal with that thing. And you can get the Acolyte in play to cycle as well as maybe prevent some damage off of the Piloted Shredder,
He
like if he chooses
could
to attack it.
armor up, execute the shredder, and war axe the knife.
Hmm. I don't know that you necessarily want to execute a Shredder though.
Agreed, for sure. But he has just a car. It's not terribly dire, but looks like he's probably gonna go with your line of play. Throws down the acolyte.
Yep. Golden Acolyte at that. Savannah Highmane
Does it
seems
only
like
draw golden cards?
looks like it doesn't. But
It's like, oh well, that theory got disproved real quick.
yeah. Alex Straza also drawn. Thunderhorn has at least two 9 mana dragons on this deck. In this deck, who knows if he has more?
That would be really cool, but overpowered if you could, like, assuming that Hearthstone, like, the golden cards aren't, pay to get. If you could somehow like section your deck into two types of cards and you only draw from that set, right? It's like if a card set only draws a golden something, then you would just like have it draw only like your 9 mana legendaries or something like that.
That would be a really interesting mechanic, but I think it would upset a lot of people with
Oh yeah.
OCD.
I think okay. Here's the way it could work. Like it could just you could do like a draw a legendary or something like that, right? I mean, there's Discover now, so
Hmm.
I guess Discover
Yeah,
would just give you a random card. It doesn't work out. No, it looks like he uses the Execute anyway.
interesting. I guess yeah, he's setting up for the Loatheb to trade, but unfortunately, Houndmaster is waiting. Or you could just go with another high main. Brawl has got to be a scary thing at
Well,
this
he can
point.
throw his he can Eagle Horn and use the Giblin to kill off the Loatheb. It doesn't
Yeah, it.
really. Oh, and it'll leave him enough mana to Houndmaster if he wants to do
Mhm.
that, as opposed to Hero Power.
I mean, I think it really depends on what he wants to play around here. Like you could play around BGH by trading off the high main first and then Houndmastering something
Ah,
small.
that's true.
You could play around Brawl by trading the Stalker and using your bow and then Houndmastering.
Hmm.
Um,
Or
yeah, I
just not
mean,
Houndmastering and Hero Powering if you were really that concerned.
mm. Oh man, I really want to see the Houndmaster though.
Yeah. He's gonna play around everything.
Mm. I don't know if this puts enough pressure though that you're happy with.
Hmm.
Like if you Houndmaster the high main, sure it can get BGH'd, but then I don't know.
He can't
I
BGH and Brawl on the same turn, but
Yeah, it is a scary thing though. BGH is an annoying card, and high main is an annoying thing to deal with. So I guess you want to leave it that way. This way you can have another high main and a hero power next turn.
and there's no
So
executes, so he's feeling pretty happy about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely go along with this line from Schwippers. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think he's playing it really well. So
Does he's probably okay face tanking 5
yeah, I think Hunter's
damage.
Mark is fine here.
Just play the other high main, Hunter's Mark, Hero Power. I think looks pretty good.
Yeah, and since Thunderhorn didn't deal with the first high main, like you can be pretty sure he won't deal with the second. Like Brawl is not good against the high main
Brawl?
board.
Yeah, that's definitely. It removes 2
Yeah.
damage. Congratulations.
Yeah, I definitely like this play. Keeping the maximum aggression and making use of the double high main, which Warrior already has enough of a nightmare with one high main. So.
Yep, definitely.
High main has been the nemesis of Warrior for such a long time in these matchups, going all the way back to Unleash the Hound Starving Buzzard when high main was being played in those decks. That was just like the nail in the coffin for the Warrior players. The high main to top out the curve. So brutal.
Yeah, unfortunately, Justicar here is too slow, I think.
I mean, he's got to do something. Like, Justicar does seem like the right thing if you're trying to eventually come back into this game somehow. But
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the only thing he has, but I don't know that it's enough. Like, staring down 2 high mains when you have no executes this is brutal.
yeah, gotta hope for a miracle next turn. I think just slam the Justicar, tank up, and hope it works out somehow.
Yeah, there's nothing else he could do. The Dr. Boom just, you're staring at 12 damage when you have 15 health, and it's a hunter, so he just needs 1 damage somehow from hand. Ooh, a freezing
I
trap.
think there's a total of 17 damage here from Schwippers, with 1 point from Unleash, 2 from Houndmaster, 12 on board, and 2 from Hero Power. So it's very, very close to the series being finished here. Depending on what happens on this next turn, Georgia Tech just might get it. Schwippers could close it out for his team and take them to the finals. Or will Thunderhorn maybe find some way to have a miraculous recovery? He's going to need like shield block into shield slam into a favorable result from Brawl.
Yeah, so I think 1 hound. Oh, actually, he's playing this extremely carefully.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so a Sludge Belcher does pop up.
and you can Armor Smith.
There's also Alex, but Alex will not be enough. That's... Well, okay, he trades off the Justicar. That'll be 13 damage on board, plus Hero Power. Actually, yeah, so I think Schwippers calculated this out exactly, right? Because with the 1 hound there, Alex would not be enough to keep him alive. He would have exactly 15, not even including his hand. Oh, well, I guess
Well, I mean, even if he played the Hound,
he can kill the hound with his axe, or actually kill one of the guys that comes out. But with the freezing trap, like there's so many things there for Schwippers. I don't think. All right,
Yeah, I mean,
this
I think
is the
Thunderhorn's-
safest. Yeah, the safest way he could go here.
Wow, he didn't. Okay.
Well, there's the freezing trap, right? So.
I guess it
He
doesn't
might be
really matter too
thinking,
much.
yeah, he probably wants to bounce his Armor Smith and replay it, because it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, if you do survive,
You just like miss the 1 damage or miss, 1 hit. So he'd be able to get the Justicar to do some damage. Alright.
So, yeah, that's lethal, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep. Georgia Tech with Schwippers closing out the series, taking it 3-1.
He's just standing there. It's like, come on, dude. Just press the Hero Power. That's
Yeah, 3-1 over the New York University Bot Teachers. Well played to both teams. That's Georgia Tech going to the finals. Um, yeah, really, really interesting series there. No Warlock being seen from Georgia Tech, but I really think they're just saving it as their secret weapon.
Yeah, I mean, last week and this week, you get to see everything that your opponent's playing, right? So you really have to think about it like switch up your game. Like Brewski played Priest last week, he played Paladin this week, Bloody Face also switching it up with Hunter, playing the Warrior again this week, which I thought was pretty risky. And, Eclipse did play Druid and win that game, so there is that. I think Zabri did a pretty good job there with the Druid countering the Warlock, and then the Hunter working out quite well for Shrippers. Might have been trying to pick that against the what is he? Oh, the Shaman. Although the Kazan mistake makes me wonder about that, but it worked out, ending up in a Control Warrior versus mid-range Hunter matchup, and the two Savannah high mains, too much damage, and Georgia making it to the finals.
Yeah, pretty sick series there. Coming up next, though, we are going to have Princeton University versus McGill University to figure out who Georgia Tech's opponents will be. That'll be after a short break. We hope you guys are enjoying the broadcast so far, and hope you continue watching.